Chapter 19, The Young Landlords, Walter Dean Myers. It was easier getting Bubba involved than it was Dean. Bubba was basically a more straightforward person than Dean was. With Dean, you had to cajole and badger and argue with him until two things happened. One, he was convinced, and secondly, he was convinced more than he was scared. With Bubba, you could take a more direct approach, usually a bribe. We offered Bubba a pizza if he could go along without telling Gloria until it was over. We had to involve Bubba because Kelly didn't know him. He knew Dean. We got the money from the office, where we had it locked in a drawer. Dean was to stay in the office and tell Gloria or Mr. Pender that I had taken the money home for safekeeping. If they asked, he was also there to act as our backup man. If I called and asked to speak to Charlie, he knew you were in trouble. Bubba was dressed in his Sunday suit and was wearing shades. That was my idea, so he looked a lot like an underworld guy. It was his idea to carry a handkerchief and keep wiping his neck with it. He had seen that on the Late Show. I think he looked okay, but Kelly didn't take to him at all. "Who is that cat?" he asked. "He's the bag man," I said, trying to act cool. "The what?" Kelly asked. "Our bag man," I said, wondering if the people working on the salt talks knew about Kelly's breath. "He carries anything that's a little, what you mean, man." Kelly looked Bubba over. I lowered my voice to a whisper and looked around and said that when we do anything a little, no lie. Kelly looked at me. "No lie," I answered. "He don't look that type to me," Kelly said. "Now you know why we use him." "Hey, I can dig it," he said, nodding. "All right." We went over to where Bubba was standing with his briefcase in his hand. Bubba didn't say anything to Kelly. When Kelly spoke to him, he just grunted a little and wiped his neck with his handkerchief. We crossed the town bus and then walked a half a block while we reached the small store. It was crowded with furniture and signs. Sometimes you couldn't even see the furniture for the signs. The signs read 3 rooms of furniture, $2.95, or no money down, 2 years to pay. Things like that. A short, stocky man wearing a suit and a small cap came up to us. "Hey, Kelly, what's happening?" he said, shaking Kelly's hand, but looking right at me and Bubba. "How's it going, man?" "It's going okay, Tony. Look at my friends here. Are interested in getting a good price on some stereo equipment. I told them you could give them a special price." Yeah. Tony looked at me and Bubba. What kind of things are you looking for?" "Some stereo equipment," I said, feeling more kind of confident. "Well, we got some nice stuff," he said. "About how much you want to spend. It depends on how much we can get for our money." "Well, why don't you take a look at this set?" Tony took us all over to the stereo set that was made into a combination bar and a fake fireplace. There was a price on it, and it was $367. There was another price, $599, that had a line through it, as if it had been reduced. "This is a nice set, and a lot of people are buying it." "What's the price?" Bubba asked, looking at the price. "It's right there, but you can pay on time if you don't have the money." "We have the money," Bubba said, taking our outer roll of bills, "but the price isn't what we're looking for. We might have to buy 2 or 3 systems." "Well, you can buy as many systems as you want on credit," Tony said. Kelly had walked away and was walking to one of the sale girls, and I didn't know what to say next. Bubba reached into the bar and turned on the set. It sounded pretty good. Then he turned it off and walked over to an amplifier. He turned that on and listened for a while. "How many things can you plug into this?" he asked. "What you got?" Tony asked. "This set can take a tape deck, a phone, a phonograph. How many things can you use at once?" Bubba grunted and wiped at his neck with a handkerchief. Then he started this little twitch with his mouth as if something was jerking at his bottom lip. He was getting carried away with the whole bit. "Look, you guys see anything you want, you let me know, okay?" Tony turned and walked over to where Kelly was standing. Looking at the turntable, he started talking to Kelly, but we could tell he was talking about us because he kept looking over his shoulder at us. "Hey, Bubba, don't go overboard," I whispered. Bubba grunted and wiped his neck with the handkerchief. He turned on a few more sets, pretended like he was listening to them, and then turned them off. Tony came back over and asked us if we saw anything we liked. He couldn't keep his eyes off Bubba, and Bubba was wiping faster and faster. "I don't think we can," Bubba said. Wiped 3 times, twitched his mouth twice, and then wiped again, because your price isn't what we're looking for. "That's the way it goes, my friend," Tony said, rubbing his chin. "Yeah," Bubba said, "and, later." We started toward the door, Kelly caught up with us just before we got outside, and he pulled me aside. "Look, man," Kelly said, "Tony thinks your friend is a dope fiend. He figures he just wants to case the place and come back and rip him off." Kelly motioned for Tony to come over. "Look, you want to do business with me, it's okay," Tony said, "but I ain't looking for no trouble. He ain't no dope fiend," Kelly said. "He's just their bag man." "What kind of bag he in?" "I don't know," Kelly said. "Tell him, Paul." "He's a bag man, dig it," I whispered to Tony. "He carries the stuff when it's a little, "Oh," Tony said, looking over at Bubba, and who was still wiping and twitching. "He do?" "Yeah, Mr. B," I called Mr. Bubba, and he came over. "You call him Mr. B? Never call him by his right name," I said under my breath as Bubba came over. "What's up?" Bubba said. Only now his voice was changing, too. "Show him the bread," I said. Bubba opened the briefcase where we put the money. It looked like more than it was when you looked down at it. Anyways, Bubba just gave Tony a quick look and then shut the bag again. "Ain't no junkie got that kind of bread, baby," Kelly said, obviously impressed. Tony was impressed too. A moment later, we were in the back room, looking at the boxes of stereo equipment. Tony said we could have anything we wanted at $50 a box. In that another minute, we had to select 6 boxes. "Get us a cab, man," Bubba said. He was beginning to sound a lot like Marlon Brando in The Godfather. I got the cab, and we loaded all the boxes in the trunk, and some in the front seat with the driver, while me and Bubba and Kelly sat in the back. Kelly whispered something into Bubba's ear, and Bubba opened the briefcase and took out $20 and gave it to him. We dropped Kelly off near the Morningside Avenue. It took us exactly forever to get back to the joint and to unload all the stuff in the cab. We took it all in the office and closed the door. "You see how that cab driver looked at us?" Bubba said. "That guy was scared stiff." "You got all the stuff from that store?" Dean asked. "How much did you spend?" Bubba opened the briefcase. We got $23 left. I got this sinking feeling in my stomach. Dean held the money that was left in his hand. It didn't look like very much. The original money that we had from the street fair hadn't been enough, but at least it was something. "Let's get at those numbers," I said. We dug up the list of serial numbers that Chris had given us and began to check them against the numbers on the boxes. They didn't match. Not one number came even close to any of the boxes. Checkout time, the sky had fallen. We just sat in the office without saying anything. Dean looked at the list again. He looked at the numbers on the boxes. He dropped the list on the desk. When we heard Gloria's voice talking to one of the Robinson sisters, we felt sick. She tried to get in, and the door was locked, and she knocked. I opened the door. "Who died?" she asked. We thought. I took a deep breath and started again. I thought I had a good idea, but it didn't work. "What was the idea?" she asked, looking first at one face to another. "I thought if we bought the stuff from the store that Kelly said he had seen it in." "You mean that we were talking about before?" Gloria asked. "Yeah." She looked at the boxes and at the list of numbers on the table. "How much is left?" she asked. Dean pointed to the $23 on the desk. Gloria looked at me and then counted the money. Then, if she couldn't believe it, she counted it again. She didn't say anything, just stood up and left the office.